Welcome back, everybody, to We Are TPM with myself, Kyle Teixeira, and across from me, John Teixeira, per usual. This week, we are going to discuss, should your tenant be paying your increased taxes? Now, if that topic interests you, you have any questions about it or anything else we're going to discuss today, feel free to give us a call at 817-818-9039 or shoot us an email at showmethemoney@wearetpm.com. That's showmethemoney@wearetpm.com. Now let's get into it. What's the question of should your tenants pay your increased taxes?
So this correlates from a lot of conversations we're having with our investors, right? They're getting their tax appraisal notices, right? Mm-hmm. Just like this time of year, every year. And they're freaking out and they're doing the math and they're going, well, if my taxes are going to increase, shouldn't my rent also increase and shouldn't the tenant have to pay for that? And it's not so much that they're thinking along those lines or asking the question. I guess it's the way they're asking it as if there's a direct correlation to my expenses and my taxes to what your rent as a tenant should be. And that's the question I have, Kyle, that I wanted to present today.
Well, we're talking about property taxes, right? So that's the property they live in, the tenant lives in this property, and your property taxes this year have gone up, right? And you're looking at your rent amount, and it, wondering why it didn't change. Say your taxes went up $1,000, split that over 12 months. Or let's go $1,200. So $100, right? You're thinking in your head, maybe the rent should go up $100. When I guess we're going to discuss that there is not the direct correlation between those two factors.
Well, the economics that cause your taxes to go up are probably going to also cause rents to go up, right? That's what we've seen historically. That's what we're seeing right now.
Well, let's break it down. Your property taxes go up because they're a percentage of your appraised value.
Yep.
So they go up when the home value goes up.
That's right.
So, does the tenant get a piece of that equity?
Well, yeah, you just jumped right to the bottom line, right? And that was the bottom line of this whole discussion really is like...
That's where you get started.
Who's going to get the benefit of that, right? Like, is the tenant going to... if they stay in a home for 10, 12 years and move out, they get nothing except that 10, 12 years of residence. If you sell that home while they're living in it, they still get nothing, no benefit from the reward. Then nor should they, right? They didn't take the risk. They didn't buy the home. And that's what this is really about. It's about a risk reward. You purchased a property. It's just like purchasing a business, right? You accept the expenses that go along with it. And you charge for your services, whatever you can charge, right?
Well, and it's I guess what we're describing too. I mean, that was easy to jump to the equity, but breaking down the taxes thing, it's really a lagging indicator of the market.
A little bit,
because, and what you're saying from an economic standpoint, it catches up. Well, the reasoning there is because rent rates will eventually catch up with those property tax increases, and the reason that happens is because new properties are being bought, right? So new investors are buying new properties at that current tax rate that you're now seeing, and they're doing their analysis based on cash flows that they can get, off the current price of homes. And
maybe as long as there's enough demand to pay that much rent. So in the right kind of economic atmosphere, you're exactly right. Now, I'm not sure that always works, because if you've got 100 houses and 20 people want to rent them, then what you just described doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter what an investor wants to rent something for. They've got 100 homes to choose from and there's only 20 of them. That's not, so using that example, let's say you're an investor. This doesn't happen, right? But let's say you're an investor that has that situation that I described, and your taxes have gone up, which rarely happens. Those two things are just
well, and this
don't naturally happen.
This is a different economic environment we're currently in, because people are getting their tax bills for 2021 that in most cases, especially in our area, have gone up, and So the taxes have gone up. Well, yeah, it wasn't a lag. The property taxes were not a lagging indicator. Rent rates went up at a way more drastic rate than home values did.
That's right.
So they already outbeat your tax rate.
That's right.
So that's the easy answer right now to investors is they're already being paid for in your increased rent rate that came before your increased property tax rate.
It's amazing how fast investors forget that, huh?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
2 years ago, your tenant was paying you $1,500 and you were perfectly happy with that. Now your tenant is paying you $1,900 and all of a sudden a $13 increase in your taxes is a huge problem.
Well, where's that made up for? Maybe in the $400 that you have been increased in that example. So, yeah, I mean, that's, people like to look short term. We got to remember renting real estate is a long-term investment. If you look at it in short-term basis, you're not looking at the right kind of investment forecast. So
this is a good discussion though, isn't it? Because people have such different views on it, and it's almost like a no-win. Like nobody's going to really walk away from this conversation. If you have competing views, you're not going to walk away feeling like you won or you convinced the other person. That's my thought. That's been my experience. But I just have a trouble connecting the two directly. That's what it is, really. There's already a natural connection between rents and your expenses that happen through natural economics. And I feel like letting that natural economic atmosphere play out is going to make you win way more than the expense. I mean, your rents are going to go up way more than whatever that tax rate is.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a market. That's how markets work. These factors all collect into what the market price is for things. And investors usually ask that question more because it's more and more common that investors aren't escrowed on their taxes. So they're paying an actual upfront tax bill every year versus every month.
That's true.
In pieces, right? Yep. So it feels like more of a kick when they got to pay that tax bill. But you can look at it from the other side of the coin. I mean, that's why there's no direct answer to this other than it's part of the investment. But the other side of that coin is, okay, well, if your home value hasn't gone up this year and your taxes haven't gone up, is it fair to raise your tenant's rent $100 because the market rent went up $100?
Right.
Yes, it is. But that's the benefit.
Because the market says
that's what the market's saying.
And we've had past podcasts. We're not going to do that again, but we've had past podcasts where we talked about how you're literally doing your tenant a disservice by not keeping the rents close to market rate.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we have, and that involves partially, over time you're trapping them in something and all that. But another piece of this puzzle is caps. Tax rates can be capped and commonly are, and in Texas now are if you hold on to that property.
Not on investment proproperties, though.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
There's pieces of that. It's still capped to a certain extent now, but rent rates aren't, is my point there. They're never capped. No, unless you're in Texas, they're not generally not capped.
Right.
So, they're all things to consider. But at the end of the day, your home value is based on market rates. Your rent values are based on market rates. Your property taxes is kind of based on your home value's market rate too. It's appraised value is determined based on market rates. So the market decides. And the market decides how quickly it catches up or how quickly it accounts for those taxes, whether it's a leading factor or a lagging factor. It's all determined by the market.
Well, you're absolutely right. And the market decides is really the bottom line, right? What your rent is. Because here's the bottom line. Let's paint a scenario real quick. Your taxes went up, let's say they went up $50 a month. That's pretty extreme. I can't say I've never seen it, but that's pretty extreme. Let's say your taxes went up $50 a month. And so you're like, I want my tenant, let's say you're at $1,500 a month and there's same like homes, they're all leasing for $1,500 a month in that city. Okay. And now you're like, okay, I want my tenant to pay $1,550 because they need to bear the burden of this tax bill for my business. And did you hear did you hear my sarcasm there?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So now I'm at $1,550. I'm $50 above market rent. what's stopping my tenant that assuming that I like this tenant, maybe they've been with me a long time, they pay the rent every month. Why wouldn't they go somewhere else and pay $1,500? You never ever want to price your house out above market value and make it easy for a tenant to make a decision to leave you. Assuming you like this tenant, right? Assuming they're taking great care of it, they're paying, and they're doing all the things that a tenant should do. Why would you want it for any reason? Why would you want to put yourself in a position where they're going to leave you and you're now going to have a turnover, which is going to cost you way more than that $50 a month?
It's going to cost you way more, and you got to consider the perspective of what that tenant's hearing too. I mean, if you tell the tenant that, which some landlords do, your rent's going up because my taxes went up. What you're actually saying is your rent's going up $50 because the value of the home you're paying for me went up $50,000.
Yeah,
How do you think the tenant's going to look at that? You know, because
you just got richer.
Yeah.
And now you want to take more money out of me every month.
Because you have to pay taxes on getting richer. So
that might be how a tenant perceives it. Yeah. You know what? There's another part of this that I think was interesting. This is kind of a little bit off topic, but you brought it up, and I think it's interesting maybe to note it here is you mentioned a lot of investors don't impound their taxes. So there's a couple different ways that I always consult my investors to handle that. One, if you can set up that escrow account, I think that's the easiest and best way to do it, right? Just like know it's paid. You have set up an automatic payment every month for a certain amount. Mortgage company takes care of it. I believe that is the easiest and most...
Well, not everybody has mortgages like that, though.
Yeah,
I mean, but you can escrow yourself. Escrow is a fancy way of saying putting money in an account.
Well, that's what I was getting at next.
To be a bucket. Yeah.
Go for it. Go for it.
So yeah, figure out, do what the mortgage companies do. They do an escrow analysis. So they take a look at a 12-month forecast of what they expect your taxes to be and your insurance to be over the next 12 months or over the next year until they analyze it again. And they take that amount, divide it by 12, and this is how much that account needs to be filled by in order to pay your tax bill for you at the end of the year. And you can do that yourself. You can overestimate that yourself. And
there's two ways that I do that, okay? I do it two separate ways. I have a business tax account where I literally take a percentage of all of my income, and as soon as it comes into my bank account, it goes into a separate account that's for taxes, right? So that's one way to do it, very much like what you just described. But with a rental property, if you only have one rental property or your rental properties are separate from the rest of your business and lifestyle and you're not using it, and I hope you're not, because if you're listening to me, you shouldn't be using your income from your rental properties for your lifestyle. It's just, that's not what it's there for. It's there to build wealth. So let it grow so that you can maybe buy more properties or pay it down or whatever. That's a different topic. But I have an account that all of my debits and credits for my rental properties goes out of, right? It's called a rental property account. So when my rent comes in, it goes in there. When my mortgage goes out, it goes out of there, right? And hopefully that account, it's separate from the rest of my account and it grows and has a certain amount of money in it, and that's where you pay your taxes from. As long as you're not using it for other things, for anything but that property or that group of properties, there's no reason you can't pay your taxes out of that and escrow it in that manner as well.
Yeah, that's still not directly escrowing it, though. But,
it's not.
A big repair could kick that out.
Yeah.
So, make it even more separate. Make it go separate to a tax account before anything that goes to your rental account.
Yeah.
So, but that's the point. It's just a savings account for a purpose is what escrow is.
Yep.
They're holding money for you to pay something later on. So
what's our conclusion here, Kyle? Do we think the tenant should bear the expense of increased taxes from a homeowner?
I think the tenant should pay market rent.
Yep.
And I think that's the factor you have to look at.
And market rent is usually higher when taxes are going up, isn't it?
It is, and in general, but the market prices rent and prices things in based on a lot of factors. That's just one of them. It's just one of them, and it eventually catches up sometimes. Sometimes it's already there. Like I said earlier, we're in one of those environments where it's definitely already accounted for itself. And, another market stat is generally rent rates do increase with home rates, either at the same rate or a little bit faster. So if they're generally increasing at the same rate or a little bit faster than home values, percentage wise, then they're pretty much always being accounted for just by that metric. So, they're not supposed, another question I have gotten is like, okay, well, what about like the added ISD taxes, like Mansfield ISD or district we live in? They add on to that tax an additional tax that can be more. Well, I'm guaranteeing you the market in Mansfield is already pricing in the fact that you're in Mansfield ISD, and I can speak to that. So, on the
people that live in Arlington in the Mansfield ISD school district benefit from living, their property values directly benefit from living in Mansfield ISD.
That is correct. And that's why you'll see a very comparable house in South Arlington priced higher than one just up the street, and just because it's outside of Mansfield ISD and Arlington ISD.
When I'm comping the value of homes and I'm near that border, that Mansfield ISD border in Arlington, I always have to weed out the Arlington ISD homes or vice versa in order to get the proper value, because there is a huge difference. Not to knock Arlington ISD, but Mansfield ISD has a reputation. People come here for a reason. We have these bond elections that we just had recently were about that very same thing, right? They were about making our community better and the community deciding whether they wanted these amenities in our neighborhood, in our community or not. If they wanted to pay for them, they probably would have increased our value, right? I'm not sure that it would have increased our value enough to cover whatever everyone's expense was or not, but that seems to be the big debate, right? But that's what it's all about. When you put a really nice park in a city, it makes the city more attractive, more people want to come here, and everybody's values go up accordingly.
It's just more factors people consider.
Yep.
It's like once this park's built, the city's like, hey, now that we built this park, should the rent values be going, or the home values next to this park be going up so we get more taxes?
They don't decide that. The market does. So the market decides that the values go up. The market decides that the rents are going to go up because it's next to this nice park. Heck, you probably pay more for a gallon of milk next to that nice park. I don't know, but the market gets to decide those things.
Yep. Supply and demand.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, you know what, Kyle? Good discussion, and I have it all the time with people. You'd be surprised. I mean, you're not surprised. You know how often we have these discussions with people. People literally call me and say things like, I just got my tax bill and it's gone up $30 a month and we need to raise the rent. I'm like, okay, I understand that there's a correlation in your mind between how much you make and how much, and that's called cash flow. I get it. I completely understand it. But if all I'm saying is if we let it play out, your rent's probably going to go up $75 or $80 anyways, whether you told me about the tax bill or not, right? More than cover your additional tax bill, and let's go. Yeah. Let's do what the market tells us we need to do and be fair to everybody.
Yeah. So the answer to should my tenant pay for my increased taxes is not directly.
Not directly. Yes, I like that. That's a good answer.
Indirectly, they will.
They will, but
it's not a should question. Indirectly, they will.
I love it.
But yeah, if you guys have any questions about property taxes, do not call us. But if you have questions about anything, I'm just kidding. Give us a call, 817-818-9039. Shoot us an email, showmethemoney@wearetpm.com. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of We Are TPM.
We are TPM.
We are out.